to Rupy's break from reality. I'm on my way back from Alice Springs and I've just hit the border with South Australia. See? So I'm in the Northern Territory at the moment and I'm going to walk across the border. Walking along the state border. South Australia, which I know sounds a bit odd because the sign says welcome to the Northern Territory, but from South Australia, that's exactly what's happening. So later on, I will give you my thoughts on what I thought of the Northern Territory. Generally very positive. Alice Springs, not so much, but I will go into that in a bit more detail later. But for now, on the border, there you go, that is the border. This is me signing off. I'll speak to you later. Bye. And this is me straddling the border. Northern Territory, South Australia, and both. There you go, with just my little ding dong in the middle, which is probably a bit more information than you needed. But anyway, time to head back into the car. Welcome back, viewers. It is Rupy's break from reality, and this is the one where he travels back from Alice Springs, well, eventually to Adelaide, but specifically today to Rupy, which is a journey of some 700 and something odd kilometres. I'm about 200 kilometres from Rupy, so I've done what, 500 odd, say, maths degrees. It's been a long journey, a very long journey. But it's given me some time to consider the Northern Territory. And, do you know, I love the Northern Territory. I don't think I could live there, but what a place to visit. So the lowlights first, and then we can end on the positives. Alice Springs. No, didn't like it. There was a real edge to Alice Springs. It was like two communities that didn't want to coexist but were forced to coexist, and it just meant that when I was wandering around Alice Springs, it just frankly it felt a little unsafe. Saw a couple of police busts, which was interesting, and everyone just stops and stares. I was happy to leave Alice Springs. It was beautiful on the approach to Alice Springs, and the West MacDonnell Range, which is the mountain range around it, is spectacular. Simpsons Gap, beautiful. But I don't think I really need to go back. I went to the telegraph station this morning, which is one of the things that put Alice Springs on the map in the first place, because it was the telegraph station that linked Darwin and Adelaide, so the very north and the very south of Australia together via Alice Springs. And so instead of a journey back to the UK taking 5 months, a message taking 5 months to get back to the UK, 5 months, it would take about 5 hours via Morse code. So very interesting. But once I'd seen that, I was very happy to get the hell out of Dodge. So Alice Springs, tick, don't need to do it again. Not specifically. What were the other low lights? Actually, there was only one other low light, and that was that cursed dirt road, which sounded like such a good idea. Hey, take a scenic route from Kings Canyon through to Alice Springs. Who could possibly resist? And yes, the sign did say 4-wheel drive required, and yes, I am in a 4-wheel drive vehicle. But I wasn't expecting it to be quite so unsealed, I think the term is they use here. it was uncomfortable, it was noisy, it was do you know, I was about to say lonely. That's not quite the right word. It was desolate, because in that, well, what ended up being about 5 or 6 hours on that dirt road, I saw one other vehicle, and it was going in the opposite direction. And then the puncture, you know, adventures and all of that malarkey, that's part of what the break from reality is all about. But for a little while I was very worried, because there's no phone reception. I'd seen one vehicle for 5-6 hours, so no phone reception. It's getting late. Because I was going so slowly, the fuel economy was terrible, so I could see the diesel or the petrol meter just dropping, and I had horrible visions of having to sleep overnight in the car, hoping that someone would pass me at some point, or a phone signal would miraculously appear with me being stationary, which, you know, being a pseudo man of science, I know couldn't happen. Not until, well, they put the satellites up there, which just isn't going to happen. Not in my time frame, anyway. But thank you very much to the people of Arayonga for bailing me out. But driving on that road on 3 wheels and 1 rim, not pleasant at all. But I made it out, and you know, I'm sure over time the story will get more and more elaborate, and there'll be carrion, there'll be animals approaching me. I'm sure there'll be a dinosaur or something, maybe some lions, tigers, that kind of stuff. Maybe even some pirates or some looters who I have to fend off with my Catherine Hepburn hat and neck, which is scary enough as it is. So they were the lowlights. The highlights: Kings Canyon was very pretty, even though I didn't actually spend that much time there. I just wasn't in the mood for a 4-hour walk. And just as well, actually, because if I had done that 4-hour walk and then got stuck on that road, I'd have been very, very unhappy. So Kings Canyon, very pretty, and then we come to the. Actually, no, we'll save the absolute highlight. The scenery is spectacular, and it's weird because it's a desert, and so there isn't actually an awful lot to see, but it is a very pretty, not a lot, if that makes any sense. There are bits of it that look like I was expecting the outback to look, sort of very sort of proper desert. Albeit red, rust, see? And then there were bits that were very scrubby, bits that were very bare, but just beautiful nonetheless. And then some of the mountain ranges were just gobsmacking. But then we come to the absolute highlight, which was Catatucha and obviously Uluru. Now Catatucha I didn't even know existed before I arrived. I mean, literally, when I arrived at the park, and the park is called Uluru Catatucha National Park or something. I'm sure in a voiceover I'll correct that if necessary. And so I didn't really know what Catatucha was, but again, it's just one of those little hidden gems. What a beautiful set of rocks. I mean, beautiful set of rocks. Which sounds like a euphemism for something rude, but it really isn't. And then Uluru is everything I expected it to be. It was beautiful, it was magical, it was mystical, it was impressive, it was very popular,
you know, it was New Year's Eve. Well, you know, I was there around New Year's Eve, and so I wasn't expecting a huge number of people. But the park or the resort was packed. The viewing areas were packed every night, every morning. But it is a beautiful rock, and whether you believe that it was put there or whether you believe it's just luck, science, geology, the weather, it doesn't matter. It doesn't take away from the impressiveness of the actual rock itself. And then on my final day, when it glowed red at sunset, you know, I was impressed by it before, and then after that I thought, okay, I can really see what the fuss is about now, because it was stunning. I'm not sure the photos really captured the intensity of the red glow, but if you ever get the chance, and I do thoroughly recommend it, make sure you come. The base walk was spectacular because you get to see parts of the rock that you wouldn't ordinarily see from the standard viewing places. It's about 10 kilometres. It's flat, and it's not amazingly difficult to anyone who's reasonably fit and healthy. And you know, I call myself a prime athlete. I'm no prime athlete, but I am, you know, reasonably fit and healthy. Certainly able to walk 10 kilometres. But I'd underestimated the heat and the effect of the heat. I was glad I had 4 litres of fluid with me. Virtually all of that disappeared. The first 5 kilometres were reasonably straightforward, and I thought, you know, this is just like playing tennis in Spain. And you know, you get a bit sweaty and you get a bit out of breath, but you know, you can carry on. The second half was a proper trek, and I noted that my pace, which was being measured by my watch, dropped from about 10 minutes per kilometre to about 12-13 minutes per kilometre. So all in all, they say bank on about 3.5 hours for the walk. I'm not quite sure how it would take 3.5 hours for someone who's in, you know, even reasonable shape, or sub-reasonable shape. It took me about 2 hours, which I thought was about right. There are bits that you can't take pictures of, which is a shame, because there were bits that reminded me of Jabba the Hutt, Khonshu from Moon Knight. There were bits that looked like the mask from Scream, and it's almost as if various film directors and producers had just gone to it and taken inspiration for various characters from it. I'm sure that's not necessarily the case, and I'm sure that's just my movie bias kicking in. But it's just beautiful and spectacular. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. If I get the chance to go again, and I'm sure I will go again, and again, and again, and again, and again. The other bits, not so much. So I'm now in South Australia. The sky is looking very, very big, albeit a little bit cloudy. To my right, it's looking, you know, fairly clear. A few high clouds. The bit ahead of me is looking quite cloudy, so I won't bother showing that bit. I did have a little fright a little bit earlier when I hit some red tarmac, and I thought I was on a dirt track again, but luckily it's just red tarmac, sealed red tarmac, so no drama, no palpitations, no PTSD or anything like that. Not that I'm belittling PTSD, because you know, it's not like my trauma was that bad. It was more of an inconvenience, albeit I was scared pooless for a little bit. Just swearing. I'm going to try and avoid swearing on video the whole way through, so that it's all PG, so that anyone can watch. Anyway, I think that's enough for now. So what am I now? About 100 can't do the maths. About 150-ish kilometres from Cooper Penny.